Greetings, winos. Today we are talking about office politics. And because everybody loves them so much, we thought it would be fun to do a Hunger Games inspired show. So, with that, welcome to the reaping.
This is gonna be so fun. Can we drink wine while we fight to stay alive? Who am I even asking? Of course we can. I know what Julie's answer is gonna be. But what I don't know, Julie, is what are you drinking today?
Well, today I am doing a throwback that I don't actually think I've ever reviewed on the show. But I thought it was very fitting for a Hunger Games inspired episode. I am drinking The Prisoner. So,
Yes!
for
Yes!
those of you who don't know, this was the wine at Scott and my wedding, which we just celebrated our 13th anniversary yesterday, and both of us forgot about it. So, just a little aside for you there.
Oh, now I don't feel as bad for forgetting. Happy anniversary!
Yeah, no, clearly it was a big one. Okay. So anyway, yes, we had this wine at our wedding, so it's obviously been a favorite of ours for a long time. This is a 2019 vintage. I haven't had it in a while. So let's see what I think. It's got a lovely full-bodied smell. I mean, geez, if I had to be stuck on a island with a bunch of people that were trying to kill me, I guess I would definitely want to have this with me. So,
I mean, you could give it to them. That'd be a huge sacrifice, but,
yeah,
you know,
to stay alive. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Or I could hit him over the head with it.
Drink it,
Whatever.
then hit him over the head.
Yeah, with the bottle. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Trish,
this is
what
violent.
yeah, yes, yes. Well, it's the Hunger Games. I mean, come on.
Right.
Okay. So, Trish, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Pinot Noir, I know, shocker, called Semiotic. It is from California. It is very fruit forward, plum immediately, cherry. They say red raspberry. I haven't quite gotten the raspberry out of it yet, but definitely can taste the vanilla and maybe even just a little bit of chocolate. This one is just a really easy, good price point for everyone out there. It's like really maybe 12, 14 bucks at the most at most stores. So I would say, yeah, it's pretty decent. It's got a nice feel on the mouth. A little heavier, I think, than most Pinots. Like mouth forward is what I mean by that. But it's pretty good for my first couple sips.
Okay. All right. Well, one other thing before we jump into the arena, I wanted to take a minute to congratulate Miss Trisha on passing her SHRM SCP. Big round of applause on her first attempt. We are so proud of her.
You.
So cheers to you.
Cheers. I appreciate that. Thank you. So glad it's over. And for all of you out there who have passed either the certified professional or senior certified professional this round, congratulations to all of you. And to all of you who are going to try it the next round, you got this.
Yes, and may the odds be ever in your favor, since it's Hunger Games. We'll say that probably a few more times. Sorry, you're going to get sick of that, but that's okay. All right, so one last thing before we enter the arena. You know what time it is?
Stat time! Okay, this is one I just can't go with one. I have to give a couple. Y'all just bear with me because the office politics are quite prolific, as you probably already know. The majority of workers surveyed, now I am getting this from a Pepperdine University research paper. It's very, very fascinating. 68% say that office politics is very or somewhat prevalent in their office. I have seen stats even much higher than that, but I wanted to choose this one because they also say, they go on to say that The office politics are ugly. We're talking about rumor spreading, sucking up, blame gaming, and backstabbing. And then here is the other thing. Over half of those surveyed said that they feel pressured to engage in office politics. And like 42% say that engaging in office politics is just part of the job, which absolutely breaks my heart. And Julie, do you know the only other thing that they say is more of a challenge than office politics when we're talking about like getting ahead in the workplace?
What?
It's one of our favorite words.
Communication or lack thereof.
Bingo! Exactly. Exactly. Isn't that crazy? So communication, not a surprise, but office politics is number 2.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I can't say that's that surprising when you think about it because again, like everybody knows what you're talking about when you say office politics, right?
Yeah.
You know, and every HR professional starts their career thinking they're going to be helping people, building culture, and solving workplace problems day in and day out. They're going to leave work every day feeling fulfilled and satisfied. Spoiler alert, this is why we drink.
Seriously. Because one day someone from leadership appears and basically says this: "Congratulations, you've been selected as a tribute for this executive conflict." And you all know this, right? And so suddenly you are facilitating a conversation between 2 vice presidents. Oh, by the way, those 2 vice presidents haven't spoken directly to each other since 2019.
Right. Or you're conducting an investigation where everyone swears they are being completely honest with you while simultaneously withholding 3/4 of the story. Right. So we're talking about understanding the arena. Now, we also have to say that politics aren't always bad. You know, sometimes they can help move the needle in the right direction if people have a common goal or agenda. But what typically happens in politics, which is why we hate them, is there are competing agendas and competing priorities. And that's where things can get a little bit dicey.
The challenge is that these politics that we're talking about often operate through unofficial channels. So the organization, the chart tells you who to report to or who reports to whom, right? Politics tells you who's actually the one influencing decisions. And as HR, it's your job to figure out how to navigate all of this. Welcome to the arena.
Yeah. So, how do you find the real alliances? So, our first takeaway is simple: understand the political landscape before you are deep in the middle of it, not after the complaint or the problem or the investigation or whatever it is arises.
Exactly. HR professionals, most of the time, we know the organizational chart, as I said, but not the influence chart. So think about it this way: who does everyone trust? Who do the executives call for advice? Who always gets consulted? Who usually gets left out of the loop? The answers to these questions can help you figure out who the real players are.
Yeah. And this is useful information because it helps you figure out when you need to navigate a challenge and you need to persuade people of the right path forward. Who are the people that you really need to get buy-in from first? So yes, this all sounds sneaky and underhanded, and it sounds like all the things about DC that we all hate. But it's also useful stuff to know because this is the way that the world works, at least here in the United States. So, and there are always going to be factions, to use another, oh, I guess that's a divergent reference. Sorry, whatever. I'm getting my dystopian novels confused right now. But there are always going to be different factions within the workplace. So part of the game is trying to understand who's in which faction and who do you need to get on board in order to get the results that you know are in the best interest of the organization and the people involved.
Our second takeaway, we're going to be talking about protecting your sponsor gifts. In other words, your credibility, thing that you work so hard to build, it's your currency. And once it's gone, good luck getting it back.
Yeah, as we all know, the fastest way to lose credibility is by becoming associated with a particular faction and becoming known as their HR person.
Oof, it's the
People,
worst.
yeah, it is. People need to believe that HR will evaluate facts consistently, regardless of who is involved. And I want to share a quick personal story because I had an issue with this crop up that, quite frankly, I never would have seen coming. So this was a really good learning lesson for me. Yes, even at 52, I can still learn, even though this was a few years ago. But so, you know, as a consultant, a lot of times you only get to meet a select few individuals from an organization. And because they're in that executive level of leadership, you have a tendency to trust them because presumably they wouldn't get to that level unless they were, trustworthy. Yeah, so we all know this is a little bit naive thinking on my part. But anyway, with respect to this one particular client, I had gotten to know this individual over the course of years. And, I'm friendly with everybody. Obviously, we all know I'm a very extroverted person. I treat my clients like family and I give hugs to people and all of that kind of stuff. So they had asked me to come speak at a company, like an event for all of their leadership. And so I went to that event and I got there early and, I was handing out hugs like I do. And I hugged this particular person and didn't think another thing of it. And fast forward 2 years, this person ends up being involved in something that was really quite gossip worthy and showed a severe lack of judgment. And that person ended up leaving the company. And I started thinking to myself, like, oh, dear Lord, all of those employees who saw me hug this individual who had had experiences with this individual that did not come out for years were probably thinking, like, oh, I can't trust her because she is tight with so and so. And again, I always like to, trust first and trust but verify, but also like I don't like to presume that people are bad. I know you don't either, Trisha. So we always walk that fine line where we're trying to give trust, but but the thing is with your credibility in HR, you do have to be very careful because you never know what's going to come out about somebody down the line or that you don't know about somebody that other people know that is causing them not to trust you because they think that you are their person or you're aligned with them and so you do not have their best interests at heart.
So, what does this mean for you all? That means you have to be disciplined. Make sure that you're documenting, as we talk about all the time, every single decision, your conversations. Make sure that you're applying all of your standards consistently. When you're doing investigations, when you're having conversations, ask the same questions. And one of my favorites, and I know Jules, you love this one as well, is challenge assumptions. And we're big on talking to you all about your own biases. Well, don't forget that assumptions fall into that as well. So you make an assumption, you work towards that assumption, right? Make sure that you challenge that and don't let that direct the way you ask questions, who you ask questions to, or the way you conduct yourself, whether it's an investigation or just an everyday workspace. When your leaders want immediate answers, what do, Jules?
We remind them that good decisions are based on information, not urgency, which is easily said, but of course, much harder to do. I think the other thing that is missing a lot in today's workplaces. And I hope that this can be a space HR can walk into, but is I think on some level we have to bring bluntness and frankness back. Like so instead
That
of
doesn't
tip
mean being
right?
rude.
No, no, it does not. But instead of like I we've talked about this on other episodes, and I feel like we just talked about this recently, but our societal pressure to be nice at all costs, to preserve everyone's feelings, does us no favors. So sometimes somebody needs to be willing to say, you stepped out of line here. You've got a chance to make it right, but here's what you have to do. Or we could go down that road, but here's X, Y, and Z that could happen from that. And I think we need to bring those kind of frank conversations back. And I think they've been missing for a while. And I think that is part of our duty as HR and part of our credibility and maintaining our credibility is calling things like we see them. Because
Right.
sometimes we're going to be the only people who are unfortunately willing to do so.
I 100% agree. I think that people have gotten so afraid of what they're supposed to say, what they're not supposed to say, or what they can or can't say, that they forgot that there is this ability to be, like we always say, there's a difference between being nice and kind, right? So really putting it out there, but in a professional, respectful manner. I think that's the big thing for me is that you can have these conversations, but also if you're doing them in a way that says, I still respect you and where you are, I'm not going to speak to you like this or like this. um that's the part that people forget or miss, in at least in what I have seen, or people maybe aren't confident enough to choose the words, and so then they just end up being quiet. Like, stand up, you've got this.
Yeah, and I think, a big part of that is what we've talked about a lot in the past, which is preparing as much as you can for every conversation. So if you know that you are going into a meeting where we're going to talk about high stakes decisions in just a second, but let's say you're going into a meeting where they're considering terminating somebody and it's either a higher level person or a longtime employee or something that's going to cause a lot of angst amongst the employee population, and there are divisions that believe, yes, this person should be fired, no, this person shouldn't. And you're going into that meeting, try to prepare as much as possible beforehand. Like, what are the questions you can ask to get people to take a step back and to reconsider what they're doing or just take a beat, right? Like, how can you act during that conversation? So even more than what you're going to say, what what kind of presence do you want to have in this meeting? Do, how are you going to bring them all back to center? How are you going to get them to refocus on what the ultimate goal is? Do you need to have the core values ready, written down in front of you so that you can say, hey, remember, our number one core value is respect. Is this sending the right message? Do you need to have some of your other policies at hand? Do you need to have examples of what has been done in the past so that you can make sure you're being consistent or get them to identify, all right, well, here's what we've done in the past. If you want to deviate, what are the differentiating factors? If you can have all of that information kind of at your fingertips before you walk into that meeting, again, you are maintaining your credibility. And even more so, you could change the trajectory of that meeting and have it come out in a way that lowers the risk for the organization and helps the organization and you win the game in the long run. So with that, we're going to switch to now the game maker. So again, investigations, high stakes decisions, retaliations, all of that sort of stuff. So Trish, what is our last and final takeaway?
Yeah, Jules, this is where politics gets especially messy when we're talking about those high stakes decisions and investigations. Look, everybody loves investigations, right? Until the findings are inconvenient for them, or until a beloved member of the organization needs to be disciplined or terminated. All of a sudden, you experience so much pushback, feedback. Well, you might get feedback too,
Both.
but it's
Yeah.
not going to be the kind you like.
Yeah. Yeah. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Every high stakes decision or investigation has stakeholders, and those are typically the owners of the company, the leaders of the company, the people's whose jobs are on the line based on how this all goes. Some of those people want accountability, some want validation, some want protection, and some just want to bury this thing as deep as they can or bury their heads in the sand as deep as they can and pretend that it never happened.
I'm picturing a bunch of ostriches
Right?
right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Listen, truly, your responsibility, HR's responsibility, isn't to satisfy those stakeholders. It's to determine the facts. And then once you have those facts, advise as to the risks associated with the options that you have for proceeding. Your role, think of it this way: you are a risk mitigator. An investigator. You are not an advocate at this moment, anyway, because we all know we wear 100 different hats.
True, but your job in HR is to, I always say, treat yourself like an a consultant. Your job is to advise ownership, leadership of the risks, and then they make the decision. So once you've done that, you have done your job. And to do that, that means you have to follow the evidence, document thoroughly, as we always talk about, document, 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 and be willing to reach conclusions that may be unpopular. Because if politics determine the outcomes, employees are eventually going to stop trusting the process.
And they're going to stop trusting you. And that's how we started this whole thing, was talking about your credibility. Your credibility is everything.
Yep. Okay, so before we get back and hopefully out of the arena, hopefully we have survived this contest at least. Let's get back to the wine. So, Trisha, how is your wine treating you at this moment?
I'm going to say it is good. If we did a like, love, loathe, it would definitely be a like. It's a little heavier than what I would expect for a Pinot, but good flavors. Probably something for like a, kind of like the fattier meats, like a stew or something like that.
All right. Well,
What about
interestingly,
you?
so I find this interesting. I think that this is one of the coolest things about being a wine drinker and potentially one of the most frustrating. Your tastes evolve over time, right? They change. And Prisoner used to be my absolute favorite. It was I mean, we had it at our wedding, for God's sakes. We thought that was funny. We're getting married, ball and chain, bah ha ha ha. I still think that's funny, by the way.
It is funny.
But for me, I am not a cab lover anymore, and this is basically a cab. I think it's technically a red blend, but it's
Blend.
basically a cab, heavy on the cab. Um, and those just aren't my favorite anymore. It's not as I like them drier. I like them more minerally. I like all the things we talk about every episode. So it's I still think it's a great wine, and I think if I were eating filet mignon right now, I would be in heaven. But I am
Oh,
not
there you
eating
go.
because we are recording a podcast. So, you know, that's
You don't
there's
want to
that.
talk with your mouth full?
Nope, not
I
really.
mean,
So
mouthful of wine is one thing.
yeah, exactly. So Not my favorite anymore, probably, but still an old standby that is always going to be that has earned its place in the trophy hall of fame of wines for me. I'm trying to
I
keep with the game mentality. So,
love it.
okay. So, having said that, so we're just going to close out with how do you win without becoming a career tribute? So, you don't have to keep getting sent back into the arena. You figure out how to do this. So, our final takeaway is this: influence matters. There's a difference between authority and influence. And sometimes you can have a lot of authority, but no real influence because your authority comes from your title and not because people trust you. Influence, regardless of what your title is, means that people trust you and you can persuade them. You can be persuasive. I, again, don't want to make this sound nefarious. It's not like we're all doing underhanded, sneaky things. Sometimes this is how you get things done. So, as we've been discussing, influence is also not the same thing as politics. So, using your influence in a way that can produce positive results is a good thing that we should be using to our advantage.
We have said it on every episode, and I'm going to say it again. You 100% need to build relationships, earn trust, understand all of the stakeholders. That means from the C-suite all the way down to the bottom of your organization, because everybody is a stakeholder, just in a different way. And then make sure that you are participating in strategic decisions. But hear me on this, y'all, okay? Do not ever sacrifice objectivity to gain access. Yes, we want you to be in those strategic conversations. Yes, we want you to be a part of what's going on. But if you sacrifice your objectivity, you're also going to lose that trust and eventually that influence that Julie was just talking about.
Right. And if you are not willing to walk away when your ethics or your morals are screaming at you to, then you've lost the battle to begin with, you know. And I get it. It's easy for me to say that not everybody can walk away from a job immediately, but the most effective HR leaders know how to speak truth in difficult situations, even when your audience doesn't want to hear it. Because again, HR's role is bigger than just the problem that is facing us today. It is, what is this problem? If we solve this problem in this way today, what does that mean for the same problem we have or similar problem we have 5 weeks down the line, 5 months down the line, 5 years down the line? And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to get more of that long-term perspective so that we can make better decisions in the moment.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're talking about protecting the credibility of your systems, right? The credibility of your processes, your investigations. If people do not think you're going to go to them through this neutral, unbiased perspective, if they don't believe that you're going to lay out those facts for leadership and let them use those facts to make the decisions, oof, all I can see is, you know, the thing that comes down in the middle of the games when someone passes?
Okay, so bottom line, winos. Every workplace has politics. You can't eliminate them, but you can learn to navigate them without becoming a casualty.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
And if they're not,
Drink
pour another
wine.
glass of wine.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.